This episode of The Edge is brought to you by Audible.com, offering more than 180,000 titles for smartphone, tablet, and desktop. To get a free audiobook of your choice and help Trek.fm at the same time, visit audibletrial.com/trekfm. And also by Enterprise in Space, an international program of the nonprofit National Space Society. Find out how you can help science and education and become a virtual crew member aboard the NSS Enterprise Orbiter by visiting enterpriseinspace.org. And if you want to join the conversation and share your thoughts on this episode, join the Babel Conference, our listeners group on Facebook. Just type BABEL into the Facebook search field. We look forward to seeing you there.
You're listening to Trek FM.
What have you done out there on the edge of Federation space?
Welcome, listeners, to another episode of The Edge. I am your host, Amy Nelson, and joined with me, Brandon-Shea Mutala. Brandon, how are you doing today?
I tell you, I'm doing really good, and I'm sure the listeners and me both appreciate the month break that I've just taken from all things Discovery, because that last episode I was on was pretty messy. I was like, but I took a month break, and I'm really glad that I recharged my batteries. I didn't really listen to any Discovery podcasts or anything like that. So I'm doing great. I'm excited. I'm here to talk about some Star Trek Discovery. And I did do a rewatch, and I did not change my opinions in any way, shape, or form. I feel the exact same way, but it's still nice to have that distance and that 1 month of not listening and not watching. So
yeah,
yes. I got some Fear the Walking Dead episodes in, and I got caught up on Fear the Walking Dead pretty much, and yeah, I'm doing good now.
Well, I sort of still keep the pulse on what the fans are saying, and there's been some that have been like you, and it's like, oh, I'm glad to have this hiatus, and then there's some that are just missing it. Where's my Discovery on Sunday night? So
yeah, I saw Greg Mullenby posted it. I don't know what the thread was about. I was just looking through the Babel conference, and Greg Mullenby's like, I'm glad we got a hiatus right now. And I'm like, I hear you, buddy.
Right. Well, very excited to have a special guest with us, Kyle Wagner from the Fandom Podcast Network. Kyle, how are you today?
I am doing wonderful. I want to thank you guys for inviting me. But just do me a favor. Don't tell Kevin and Norm I'm here. They think I'm editing shows right now. So.
No, your secret is safe with us.
I'm texting Norman right now.
Of course. No, I really appreciate it. This is going to be fun. I'm looking forward to being outside of the Discoville universe to talk some things Discovery. It's exciting. And, the topic today is something I'm really excited about because I have ideas.
Yeah.
Which is always a scary proposition.
Very excited. Yeah. So, well, Brandon, this was sort of your baby here. So why don't you tell the listeners what we're talking about this week?
Well, a couple of weeks ago, I think it was about 3 weeks ago, I posted a thread in the Babel Conference, which is our listeners only group on Facebook. And I just said, you know what, just for fun, who do you think could play this captain? And I didn't really think it would take off too well, but it really kind of took off. And a lot of people had a lot of comments. And, I was kind of surprised because at the end of the season, I assumed that they would have Saru take command because, his arc was showing how much his character had changed to becoming a great leader at the end of the season, And so when they said that they're going to Vulcan to get the new captain, I'm like, what? So it started my creative juices flowing, and I'm like, who would I like to see as a captain? And I posted a couple pictures, which we'll talk about in a minute here, of my top two choices. And then the discussion just went from there, and a lot of people had a lot of really creative ideas. And I'm not very familiar with much current television, and I'm getting worse with actors as I go. As I get older, I'm not quite as familiar with actors and actresses as I used to be. So I don't recognize all the names that are on here, but people were very passionate. They had a lot of great ideas, and I thought, hey, this would make a really interesting topic for The Edge. Get some fan response on what they thought, and then a couple of predictions. Well, not predictions, a couple of pipe dreams, I guess, for us.
Yeah, so we will go through our picks. I think each of us have at least 2 picks, and then listeners, we will get to your responses as well. So, Brandon, you started off right from the get-go with CCH Pounder and Clancy Brown, and you posted the 2 pictures. So tell us, why did you choose those 2?
Well, I've been absolutely in love with both of these actors since the early 90s. Like, these were 2 actors that really made an impact on me, and they were actors that I sought out and wanted to see them as often as I could in roles. And I can remember the roles that really stuck out for me and really why I fell in love with these characters. You know, with Clancy Brown, his role in Shawshank Redemption as that really nasty cop in the prison, like, really cemented me as an actor that I love, because I think he just did such an outstanding performance in that role. And seeing him, you know, he's been in Star Trek. He was on Enterprise, I think Desert Crossing, I believe, was the name of the episode. He played the antagonist in that episode. And he's got such a great voice. He's got such a commanding presence. I think he would be an absolutely wonderful, wonderful captain. So what do you guys think about Clancy Brown as an option?
Well, first of all, if I don't say Clancy Brown is the Kurgan, Norman will hunt me down and take my head. No, I actually think Clancy Brown would be a good in that role. He does have that presence.
Yeah.
And, you know, one of the things with Clancy Brown is he's able to playing the bad guy or the good guy. We've seen him, and it's do voice work, even in animation, where he's played both, and he can do that range of scale. And I think he could really be an interesting captain because he can play that range of scale, and you could do all kinds of twists with him as a captain.
Yeah. I would like to see him in any role, you know, really. Like, this is an actor that we just need to see more of, you know, even if he wasn't the captain, like, just get him onto the show. So,
yeah.
Amy, are you familiar with his work?
No, you mentioned Shawshank Redemption, and so now that's coming. And I, you know, in preparation, sort of looked at the images and stuff. And yeah, I do recognize him. I wouldn't say that I'm a fan, but I have been impressed with what he has been. So I would be game to see him, definitely.
Well, do you watch SpongeBob SquarePants at all?
No children, no cartoons. No.
You don't have to have children to watch SpongeBob. It's pretty funny.
This is true.
Yes. But he plays the voice of Mr. Crab for the owner of the restaurant. And forever, I'm watching this show with my kids for like 2 years. And I'm like, where do I know this voice from? And then I never had my iPad with me when I thought about it. And so I'd always forget about it until the next time in front of the TV with the kids. And then finally one day I had my iPad in front of me, and I Googled it right when I was watching, and I'm like, no way. Clancy Brown is the crab on SpongeBob SquarePants. That just blew me away. So I thought it was great. But my other choice is CCH Pounder. And she's a character actor who's been in a lot of different roles. She's one of those faces that you see everywhere. And I remember the first role that I saw her in that really grabbed my attention was in the 2-part X-Files episode, Dwayne Barry and Ascension. And she was an FBI agent in this episode, who, Mulder was kind of working with her. I guess she was mostly just in the first episode, but, right from that get-go, her voice and her look and those amazing eyes of hers really captivated me. And so I started to see her kind of all over the place. And I remember I just talked about this a little bit over on Great Shot Kid, which is, Mike Schindler and John Mills' show over on the Nerd Party Network. We were talking about RoboCop, but she was in RoboCop 3. And I loved RoboCop 3 when I was a kid, as a teenager. It's not the best RoboCop movie, but, she was a great character in that movie. And so I fell in love with her when I was a teenager. And, she's done some great work. Even now, she's still working. I mean, the most recent thing I've seen her in, she did a great role on a couple seasons of, what's the biker show?
Sons of Anarchy.
Sons of Anarchy. She was in Sons of Anarchy for a while.
Yes.
And, just seeing her in that, I'm like, man, this is another person that we just doesn't get enough high profile roles that needs to be out there. So I think that she's another person who would make an absolutely fantastic captain. So those are my 2 major choices. And those are the 2 choices that I led the discussion on the Facebook group with.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on CCH Pounder. And yeah, I recognize her most recently from Sons of Anarchy, but you're right. She has a very commanding presence. Her look is very unique. She's very beautiful, and her voice is very distinct. Like, she would be excellent. So I definitely agree with that choice.
Yeah, Kyle, you got a big smile when I mentioned RoboCop 3. You know that movie?
Oh, yeah. I'm a huge CCH Pounder fan. One of my favorite things she did was The Shield.
Okay, yeah. I haven't had a chance to get to The Shield yet, so...
That was a great show. But, I mean, she's just... You go to her IMDb, and I think that's about the thickness of Moby Dick.
Yeah, she's everywhere.
She's been in so many things, and she's such an outstanding actress that you can plug her into any role. Actually, one of my favorite things she did is some voice work she did, because I thought it was perfect casting. She is the voice of Amanda Waller for the DC animated universe.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing. These guys have done a lot of animated voice work. Right, like Zach Moore pointed out that Clancy Brown also did the voice of Lex Luthor in some of the DC animated universe, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, for the Superman show that DC did at the time with the whole Batman premise at that time.
Yeah.
Well, Brandon, a lot of listeners agreed with you. We have Thomas Barca says, I can see Clancy Brown being an amazing character on Star Trek.
Joe Slawinski says, oh my gosh, I would die a heavenly death if CCH Pounder is the new captain. She is one of my favorite actresses. She has such a presence. But I gotta say, I think my favorite comment comes from Pony Horton. CCH Pounder, about time we had a sexy female captain. Yeah, she's a pretty sexy lady. So, yeah, definitely agree with that one.
All right. Well, let's move, Kyle, to your picks. Who would you like to see as season 2 captain for Discovery?
Well, I had 3 picks because I'm double dipping from one of my all-time favorite science fiction shows, and I know Greg Mullenby is going to be all in with me on this. My first choice is Ben Browder, who is most known in the sci-fi universe for playing John Crichton on Farscape, and we do not get enough Ben Browder on our televisions. He was also pretty well known. He took Richard Dean Anderson's place on Stargate SG-1 towards the end of Stargate SG-1. He is such a great actor, and if you look at what he did in Farscape, he was our eyes in Farscape, and he was so relatable for the viewer, because a lot of it that's how we would react if we were in the situation he was in with Farscape, which is basically getting blasted to the other side of the universe and having no idea what's going on. And he can play comedy, he can play serious, he can even play a little bit crazy, but he just also kind of has that appearance of a captain. You just look at him, and he's got that look of a captain, and now he's a little bit older, in control of the situation, and I think he would be great as a captain. But I'm also going to go with the fact that Discovery has given us so many great, strong female characters, and I can't think of a stronger female actress in sci-fi than Claudia Black, who played Aaron's son on Farscape as well. And we haven't gotten to see her much on American television since Farscape and Stargate ended, but she would be in another role as a very strong female lead and captain of the Discovery. And my other choice, and this is kind of based off the fact when we look at Discovery, we're still looking at a lot of missions for Discovery that could be off the books, and that led me to Thomas Jane, especially after his turn recently on The Expanse. And if you haven't been watching The Expanse, it's an amazing show. I think Thomas Jane can kind of have that darker edge to him that might be necessary for some of these things that are going to happen on Discovery. And I think he would bring a good dynamic to the show. And I got to say, one of your fans who commented, and I almost stole this, but they brought up Dan Wolf brought up Naveen Andrews from Lost, who played Saeed on Lost. Yeah. He is a very underrated, amazing actor. He would be great if you wanted to go in a bit of a different direction for a captain.
Not to mention, he should have been the person they hired to play Khan into Star Trek Into Darkness, but that's a whole other topic. Thomas Jane would be interesting. Like, I most recently saw him in 1922. Have you seen that yet?
No, I have not seen that yet. How was that?
Oh, it was really good. There was 2 Netflix original movies that came out that were based on Stephen King works, and 1922 is based on a short story, and it's pretty creepy. It's really good. The other one that came out was Gerald's Game, and I'm surprised that ended up getting a release, but that's also very good. Both have some squeamish moments in them. They're not too off the rails for goriness. I mean, like, it's tasteful. It's not like over the top violence, I don't think. But there's that one scene. If you've seen Gerald's Game, you know what I'm talking about, which is a pretty challenging scene to watch. But 1922 is really good, and I think Thomas Jane did a great job in it. I mean, he was also in The Mist, the movie,
Yes.
10 or 12 years ago now, I guess, that was directed by Darabont, right? And he was amazing in that. And like that's like one of the greatest movies of all time, right? But the most downer ending ever, but
Yeah, it's between that and The Road for what might have the most downer ending of a film.
yeah, those ones, both of those are pretty crazy. But yeah, Thomas Jane would be interesting. I'm not very familiar with the other two. I haven't seen Farscape myself, so I know the show and I've got a couple of the soundtracks of it, but I've never actually seen it. It's a good show.
Oh, it's an excellent show. I really think it was one of those shows at the time when sci-fi, and especially in the late 90s, early 2000s, was doing a lot of original programming before they kind of went off the rails and started doing Sharknado all the time and Python versus Boa every week. But it was very well written. Jim Henson's Creature Shop was heavily involved with Farscape, so you had a lot of great effects. And when you had all these actors working off of these puppets, and one of the things that was so great about the John Crichton character, especially, he kind of had an interesting mix. He was the lead of the show, and as the series developed, you saw him change with certain aspects. And there was a point in the show where he is inserted with a mental chip of the main villain of the show by a character named Scorpius. And he actually, this neural chip is trying to map information out of Crichton's mind. And it's turning him into basically a version of Scorpius. So he's playing this character played by this other actor, and he's just nailing it. And he's so creepy with the accent he puts in and just how he changes his mannerisms and how he acts. It's one of the better performances I've seen. And one of the great things about Farscape was, too, is one of the first shows, even I think before Firefly, when it was canceled, the fans got it back to at least get the Peacekeeper Wars miniseries to close out the series. Yeah. And I know there's been a big push to get it back in one form or another, but what was funny is shortly after Farscape finally ended, both Ben Browder and Claudia Back ended up migrating over to Stargate and became regulars on Stargate for the last couple of seasons. And they actually ended up making a joke about that in a couple episodes. The first episode they were both in, and in the finale where they actually were going through like different Stargates and ending up in different places. And one was like a spoof of Farscape.
That's funny. Awesome.
But no, they both have great sci-fi chops, and I really think either one of them would be, Ben Browder or Claudia Black would be great in that role.
Well, I got to latch onto something you said in there. One of our wonderful little tangents that we have on the edge. You mentioned Jim Henson's workshop. Did you hear that Netflix is picking up a Dark Crystal show?
Oh, yes. I cannot wait for this.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, man. Stay tuned for the Dark Crystal podcast here on Fandom Podcast Network, maybe.
I am all in on that. We will make that happen.
Oh, man. I am so excited. I love that movie so much.
Well, it's out. I just watched it in 4K.
Oh, nice.
It just came out on 4K on iTunes, and they upgraded my iTunes purchase to 4K. That movie in 4K is just crystal clear and still holds up incredibly well.
They just upgraded for free for you?
Yeah. iTunes about 6 months ago started converting all their movies to a top-notch 4K format if you had that available to you. I had a nice family who got me a nice 4K TV for Christmas, and so I went out and got the Apple TV 4Ks, and all the movies I have that are available in 4K, free upgrade by iTunes.
Wow, that's nice. Cool.
So let's hear it for streaming.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
Cord cutters.
Well, Kyle, unfortunately, I am not familiar with any of your picks, so I will just have to trust your fine judgment here. Even looking on IMDb, I'm just not familiar. But
you don't know Thomas Jane?
You
didn't watch Hung? Amy, you didn't watch Hung?
What?
Is that the one he was in?
Hung?
You didn't see The Punisher?
No, I haven't. I want to. I only saw Daredevil Part 2, well, Season 2, and The Punisher's in that.
Well, yeah, different.
Yeah, he was in a movie
a
while ago.
Oh, the movie? No, I tried and I had to stop. I was not interested.
Well, you'd like Hung, Amy. It's about this male escort who's well endowed in certain areas, and Thomas Jane is the star. I've never seen it, but
Shut up! Are you?
No, it was a Showtime series.
HBO.
It was a
HBO
HBO series. That's right. It was HBO. He was a dad who his life falls apart and he needs money, and he meets this woman, and She turns him into a male escort because he's well endowed.
Wow.
But
no.
Amy, what I'll tell you is if you want to go something within the sci-fi universe, watch The Expanse. He's a key player in that. You'll like him in that. He plays kind of a noir type detective in The Expanse.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Well, listeners and fellow guests here, I have a hard time with what would you like to see? I'm just more of you show me and then I'll decide if I like it or not. So this was a little difficult and I had to go with my favorite, Tia Leone. She plays Madam Secretary. And if you know Tia Leone, well, she's in a lot of different things, but currently she's in Madam Secretary. And why I chose her, well, she is my favorite person right now. But she already is in a commanding position. She's already Madam Secretary in the show. But what I like about her is that when she has ideas, and of course we know it's the script writers that are coming up with these ideas, but she can sell it as if it was her idea. She is very convincing and she's good. It seems interpersonally, and I think you need that with a captain. And so I'm definitely Tia Leone. She's just one of my favorites. What do you think about her?
Well, I only know her from two things, and I mean, I think she was David Duchovny's girlfriend for a while, wasn't she?
Yes.
And wife.
And wife? Okay, and wife, yeah.
Yeah.
So I knew that she was in an X-Files episode, Hollywood AD, but I know her from Jurassic Park 3, and I don't think Jurassic Park 3 deserves all the hate that it gets, so... You know, that's just what I know her from. Hey, thumbs up from Kyle. Yeah, Jurassic Park 3 is just fine. You people with no hearts.
It's better than Jurassic Park 2. I'll say that.
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
I don't know about that. Jurassic Park Lost World's pretty darn good. So I think the Lost World is better up until that Godzilla ending. I think it's better. That scene when that thing goes over the cliff, when the Mama T-Rex is pushing that thing. Oh man, that's amazing. That gets me.
Oh, that was a good scene, but you kind of lost me at little girl fighting off raptors using gymnastics. No, I love Tia Leone. I know I'm familiar with her from not only Madam Secretary, and Jurassic Park 3, but also Bad Boys, the original film Bad Boys. She was in that. And she's been in a lot of things and had a pretty good career. And I think she would be a good pick. And with her the way she's been portrayed on Madam Secretary, I think that falls right into the place of playing a great Starfleet captain. Yeah.
So my second pick, I'm actually stealing from Suzanne Williamson on To the Journey. So thanks, Suzanne. But Gina Torres, because one of my favorite series is Suits, and Gina Torres plays Jessica Pearson. And she is this cutthroat lawyer. She's built, this law firm up from nothing, and she is just amazing. She has a great commanding sense. Like when she walks into a room, she owns that room. And that's what I think you need in a captain. I do worry because she has such a commanding presence that she might detract from Sonequa Green. Is that her name?
Sonequa Martin Green.
Martin Green, yeah. Sonequa Martin Green. But Gina Torres is a fabulous actress. She has, again, a great look to her. She's very commanding. I believe her in definitely Suits, so I'm going with Gina Torres.
Kyle?
You made my day, Amy. First of all, me and you were going to have a podcast about Suits because Suits is one of my all-time favorite shows.
Yes, me too. Got lit up.
I love the banter on Suits, especially between Gabriel Macht and Patrick J. Adams. Especially when they start talking movies at each other, it's great. But that's one of the most intelligently written shows and most fun shows on television. And of course, I am a huge Firefly fan. I'm a brown coat, so Gina Torres, I'm all over that. I actually got to meet her last year at MegaCon.
Oh, nice.
And
what?
She is an absolute sweetheart. And I agree with you. She would make a great captain, but her presence is so commanding. I really do think she would end up taking a bit away from Sonequa Martin Green. I'd love to see her in a guest role on Discovery. I think that would be outstanding. But putting her in the captain's chair on Discovery, I think her presence is so big, and you've already got such a strong female character with Sonequa Martin Green. I don't know I think it would be a tough play off each other with those with those two. So I see your point there, but I do think that is an excellent choice for playing a captain.
Yeah. I've seen her in a couple of great roles. Like she was on 24 in season 3 for, I don't know, it was for probably about a third of the season. I know her as well from Firefly. But the last thing that I saw her in that she did a really good job was in Hannibal, right? She played, what's his name? Lawrence Fishburne's wife in that. And she was, she's very sick and she was dying from cancer. And, she had a really interesting subplot in there that was really well done. But, she'd be a great choice for sure.
Yeah.
Well, and I'll give you a quick funny story about Gina Torres. Do you know up until about, I think it was about a year ago, but she was in real life married to Lawrence Fishburne.
Really?
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
I did not know this.
So I met Alan Tudyk several years ago, and he was telling me about the story of he called Gina one night, and Lawrence Fishburne answered the phone. He's like, I want to talk to my wife, because they were married, obviously, in Firefly. And Lawrence just said, excuse me. Yes, sir, can I talk to Gina, please? But yeah, so no, that just a little interesting tidbit to throw into there. They were married for probably about 10, 15 years. Okay. I know they recently got divorced about a year ago, but yeah, so that's real life, art imitating life there.
There you go.
And I don't know anything about any relationships that are going on in Hollywood. I'm so out of that stuff. I mean, I was into it, like all that stuff, all the actors and everything like that, up until I had kids, and then it's all Grover and SpongeBob.
SpongeBob. Yes. All right. Well, the listeners had some really good picks as well. And we're going to start with Duncan Barrett and Dan Rhodes and Nathan Wall. They all agree that Jeffrey Combs should come back on. He's everywhere, right?
I don't know.
Hey.
He's a great actor, but would that be too much? Because you'd just be like, oh, it's Shran, or oh, it's Wayoon, or oh, it's Brunt, or whoever your favorite is. Brunt's my favorite.
Well, but that's the thing, is because Jeffrey Combs is known for playing different characters, he's not cast into a specific, like if Michael Dorn, like that's Worf, So Jeffrey Combs, because he's played so many different characters, I think would be actually pretty good.
Maybe, yeah. He's great. There's nothing wrong with him. He's awesome. He's awesome as an actor, for sure.
Kyle, what do you think about Jeffrey Combs coming on?
I think it's the same problem. He's been in so many things already. It's like he's such a great actor, but I don't know if he generates excitement per se. And I think that's one of the things with this casting for Captain, whoever it's going to be. And I want to make the point. I'm too real quick on this. I'm kind of hoping that they play this storyline out for a little bit in the next season of Discovery. They don't tell us who the captain is right after the first episode. Maybe it's 4 or 5 episodes in, or maybe even like the mid-season of finale, because Discovery gets routed on another mission or things happen. They finally find out who the captain is about mid-season.
Yeah.
As like the mid-season cliffhanger. I think it would be a great plot point for going through the first half of season 2 of Discovery.
You're killing me. I'm going to pull my hair out if that happens, because I really do need to know.
What if, like, I just had a crazy idea. What if they get the captain in the first episode, but they continue on with these lower deck characters so well that we just never see the captain? And it's like the teacher in Charlie Brown, like we never, because we don't know who the chief engineer is. We don't know who the doctor, chief medical officer. What if we just never see the captain and we just see the lower deck characters? I don't think that would work.
I was thinking a lot about this and, highlighting the lower decks. But you know what? So much of season 1 was integral on who the captain was.
Yeah.
Lorca, and then Mirror, Georgiou. Like, I don't see the captain being a minor role. And I agree with you. I wish that it was a minor role, but still so much of the action is taking place on the bridge.
Right.
I don't know if that's going to change. And so I think you have to have a captain that's full-time.
Well, we're going off on a bit of a tangent here, but I totally agree with you. I mean, what Star Trek is, and the format of Star Trek, is that you need these chief characters, these top characters in these departments. It really doesn't make sense that Culber wasn't the chief medical officer. It doesn't make sense that Stamets is not the chief engineer. I understand we had that goof on screen, and even things on screen aren't canon anymore because they accidentally called him the chief engineer on screen, right? But he is the chief engineer in everything but name because they wanted to try this storytelling of not having the main characters. And I don't think it works. I like, to me, Chief Stamets is the engineer. Culber was the chief medical officer. You know, like, I don't...
Because that's all we saw.
I know. That's all we saw was them. You know, so it's weird to not have them. And I think that's an attempt that they made on the show that just didn't translate well. It was a neat idea.
Well, yeah. Let me ask you guys, because I seem to remember when we were first going into Discovery, before even the series really got rolling on broadcast, one of the selling points was the captain isn't going to be our point of view character in Discovery. It was going to be basically the first officer for Discovery, and that was one of the big selling points. Is for the first time, really, the captain is not your main point of view character.
Yeah,
and I think that they did a nice attempt at trying that, but the problem is you always come back to the captain because that's the center of the starship.
Everything, yeah.
Well, and not even that. Captain aside, like, the show is not going to be interesting if you have a bunch of people following orders. And I'm sorry, that's what lower deck people are going to do. You're the grunt work, you're following orders. You really don't have that much of an opportunity to question command. Yeah. Maybe very rare, but if you're showing it week after week where you're questioning command, well, then you're not really a lower deck type of person. The excitement comes when you have to make these critical decisions that are going to affect people. And you don't get that in lower decks. You get that in command structures, where you're showing your leadership skills and, making decisions. And you make decisions in those chief medical officer, chief engineer, captain choices.
Yeah.
Mark Rodriguez chimed in. I liked a Latino captain for a change. Brought up Pedro Pascal, who's probably most well known for playing Oberyn Martell on Game of Thrones. He's a great actor. He does have a ton of charisma and would be great in command with Discovery. You know what? I love Pedro Pascal. I loved him in Game of Thrones. He also did that movie, The Great Wall, with Matt Damon, and he as kind of his sidekick character, and he was a lot of fun in that movie. But I almost see Pedro Pascal in more of a number one Riker kind of role than I do see him as a captain. He's got too much energy to be a captain.
Oh, yeah, I can see what you're saying, and I agree. Yeah. Dan McWilliams and Rune Lauritsen also agrees with Mark that Pedro Pascal would be great as a captain. Yeah,
the only thing I know him from is Game of Thrones myself, and
right.
He was really good in that role for when he was around. So, I guess I could see him probably as a secondary first officer type character. I think I like what you said there, Kyle, that he's got the energy for a first officer.
Yeah, and not to be ageist, but he seems a little young.
I don't think he's young.
I'll just throw that out there.
I don't think he's young. He's from 1975 is his birthday, and I'm on IMDb here, right? So
yeah, that's younger than me.
And he's the same age I am, so I can be a captain.
All right, Josh Tro says Benicio del Toro. We haven't had a Latino captain yet. So I had to look him up because I didn't remember him. He's the Collector from Guardians of the Galaxy and DJ from Star Wars The Last Jedi. So do you guys know Benicio del Toro?
Oh, yeah. I don't know if he would make a good captain or not. He's a great actor, but I don't know if he would be the best choice for a captain. What do you think, Kyle?
And I'm saying no.
No?
I love Benicio del Toro, the actor. However, especially after his turn in Star Wars The Last Jedi, he is not a science fiction actor. You want to see him in something like Sicario or something with an edge to it. And he would not be a good fit in Starfleet.
Yeah.
I could see him more as if anything, you're going to put him in the role of a villain than you're going to be a captain. But I love Benicio del Toro. He's a great actor, but he doesn't feel like a fit in Star Trek to me.
Like, I've seen him in a lot of great stuff. Like, he's done a lot of great work with Soderbergh, playing Che Guevara in that 2-part film. And he was in, Traffic, and like he plays this hurt character very well. Like this character who's fighting against the system, right? Kind of thing. Like that's kind of what Che Guevara was. That's what his character was in Traffic, is that cop who's trying to get rid of the drugs. And I think that's not a captain, that type of character that he plays. He's an amazing actor. But yeah, I just don't know that he would be a commanding presence. I haven't seen him in much more than that, so I don't know if he's played a role like that before.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't. I don't think he has. I mean, he's been a little sillier in some of his more recent roles. Obviously, as the Collector in Guardians of the Galaxy, even DJ in Star Wars: The Last Jedi. But we got Sicario 2 coming out with him in it as well. He just doesn't feel like the kind of personality that would fit in the Star Trek universe for me.
Right.
Okay, well, going along with not quite fitting. But Jamie Glover came up with Bruce Campbell.
Groovy, baby.
If you're not, yes, USS
Give me some
Groovy.
sugar, baby.
I know Bruce Campbell he plays Sam Axe on Burn Notice, and I loved Burn Notice. I've seen every episode. It's and I love Sam Axe. I just don't know if I could make that transition to captain
he plays
of Discovery.
Too many silly characters that see, that's the thing though, right? Like, have you got, I don't know if it's 60-minute photo or 1 hour photo, the one with Robin Williams,
Yes, like 1 hour photo.
1 hour photo like that. I didn't think that Robin Williams could do something like that, but I think that movie is absolutely amazing, and Robin Williams is extremely creepy in that film. So I know that a comedic actor can do a really good job with a serious role, but I just don't know if Bruce Campbell could. Because he's right. Bruce Campbell, and everything that he plays now, he's Bruce Campbell, right? I mean, I'm watching Ash versus Evil Dead right now, and that scene, have you seen season 2 when he's in the morgue?
Oh, yes,
yeah. Like,
yes.
I can't picture my captain with a corpse on his head. So,
yeah. No,
oh, dear.
My problem is, and I love Bruce Campbell. I love him as Ash in Army of Darkness and all the Evil Dead films, and obviously Ash versus Evil Dead. He was great as Sam Axe in Burn Notice. I've seen him in a few other things. My biggest problem is now, though, every time I look at Bruce Campbell, I go back to the fact that I see my co-founder, Kevin Reitzer, proposing to his fiancée, Erin Gill, because he did it in front of Bruce Campbell at a convention.
Oh, yeah.
That's funny.
Nice.
But no, I mean, it would be fun, but I again, this is somebody who I would rather see make a guest appearance as maybe a kind of off-the-wall captain, and then, if you're going to have like a little fun, relaxing episode to break the tension, but he'd almost be better as a guest captain on like Next Gen.
Oh,
the playoff Picard. That would be great.
What if they brought in Harry Mudd as a character? They could totally get him to be. Oh wait, never mind.
I know. I was just going to say that, Brandon. You and I were like this. All right. Well, Suzanne Williamson and Luke Sims Jenkins said Mads Mikkelsen. Now, if you're not familiar with him, he plays Dr. Hannibal Lecter from the Hannibal TV, Draco from Clash of the Titans, and Le Chiffre. If that's how you say it. Le Chiffre from Casino Royale. Thank you. So what do you think about Mads Mikkelsen?
I would be worried he's going to eat me.
Yeah. Yeah, all that stuff with Saru in the Mirror Universe, that would come to life in
the regular universe.
In the Prime Universe.
Yes.
But no, I love Mads Mikkelsen. He was great also in Rogue One.
Yep.
But I don't see him as my heroic captain.
Yeah, no, me neither, no.
He plays evil too good. He plays psychotic, and not psychotic like crazy psychotic, but that, like psychotic intelligence, especially after Hannibal.
He's Hannibal for me.
And he's an amazing.
He's solid Hannibal for me now.
Oh, dear.
But yeah, no, I mean, amazing actor and a great suggestion, but I don't see him I don't see him as a Starfleet captain. Sorry. I'm just going to look at it and go, okay, yeah, he's either bleeding from the eye like Le Chiffre, or he's getting ready to fix my liver with a nice Chianti.
So Jamar Williams says he thinks Alfre Woodard should make a comeback. She could be a descendant of Lily from First Contact. And I think that's kind of an interesting idea, because then it would tie in you'd get your tie-in reference with the Star Trek history, right? And I mean, Alfre Woodard is a really good actress, right? But I only know her from First Contact. So, do you guys know her very much?
Not a whole lot, mainly from First Contact. I know she's done a couple other things I've seen in, but nothing that really stands out to me. And, this comes back to, again, maybe digging into somebody who, if you're going to bring in a new captain, I want to see somebody who we haven't seen in the Star Trek universe before.
Okay.
So I think that, for me, that's just my thinking. Since she's, but,
Well, maybe they could bring her back as like a guest
fresh
spot, because Star Trek doesn't shy away from people playing their own descendants or ancestors. They do that quite often.
Yeah.
That's true.
Well, Alfre is a fabulous actress, and I definitely don't take that away from her. She was, you were saying, 12 Years a Slave. She was also on Luke Cage, which I saw, and so I liked her there. And she's been like on a couple, just guest appearances on a lot of shows that I've seen her, a lot of crime shows. So I think that she's great. I think that she would do a great captain. I, again, agree with Kyle. I think that I would like to see someone brand new from the Star Trek universe, again, to build and broaden our universe and not stay so narrow. So
another one that we had that would be like kind of a callback, Janessa Ciarda, I hope I'm saying your name right, says Ciarda. Yeah. It'll never happen, but I'd like to have Shohreh Aghdashloo on as Captain Paris, so it can mess up with everybody's minds. And Shohreh is just so awesome. She played Commodore Paris in Star Trek Beyond, so that could be kind of like an in-universe, canon connectivity. That'd be great. She's great. I love her voice so much. She's got such an amazing voice. And that's another actor that I know from 24 is where I know her from best. She was in season 5 of 24.
Again, and she's also actually a big part of the Expanse TV series.
Okay, yeah. I gotta watch the Expanse. What am I doing? We're done this podcast. I'm gonna watch the Expanse.
Go watch the Expanse. I highly recommend it. I finally got Norman to watch it, and he fell in love like instantly.
How many seasons are there?
Oh.
They're getting ready. Season 3 starts April 11th.
Okay.
There's 2 seasons fully out right now. Now I believe they're on Netflix.
Okay.
Oh. Okay.
Guys, there's one that I really liked. Neil Campbell brought up and suggested Kevin McKidd, Dr. Owen Hunt from Grey's Anatomy. He also did the voice of Fenn Rau from Star Wars Rebels. He was also on Rome, the HBO show Rome.
Oh, Rome was such a great show. That was a shame that show got canceled. And it was a shame what they did with that show and how they just truncated it. Ugh.
Yeah, but I think he would actually be a very good fit in a captain's chair.
Yeah. Yeah, he was a pretty tough character in Rome, so yeah, he could play a pretty tough captain.
I am not familiar with him.
You should watch Rome. It's really good. There's a couple of challenging scenes in it that
Yeah, that's what I thought I heard, and so I was like, I'm just not into too much. Is it blood and gore?
Oh, yeah.
And just that.
Yeah, there's
so I think that's why I shied away from it, because I saw. Yeah, that's what I thought.
Well, I guess I'm looking through his list here. I guess he was in Hannibal Rising, but, I don't know that because I turned that movie off after about 10 minutes, so.
Well, you were a smart man.
Well, let's talk about your final thoughts. So, like we mentioned, Discovery is not about the captain. So how much of a role do we want to see the captain in for season 2? How much do we really want to see this captain? Should it be a guest? Should it be a recurring or a main character? Kyle, let's start with your final thoughts.
When like I brought up earlier, when they first talked about Discovery, the captain really wasn't supposed to be this big selling point for Discovery because it was supposed to be through the eyes of the quote unquote first officer. I think what turned the tide was the casting of Jason Isaacs as your captain and with Lorca as Lorca. You put Jason Isaac on the screen, he's got to be a main point of focus. He is just too charismatic and too talented.
But I don't know, he doesn't have to be, though. That's the thing. They can get a good actor to play a small role. People have done it before.
And I agree with you.
But I guess they just decided that they had to go long with it, so...
Well, I mean, I think at the time I don't think they were thinking, we can get Jason Isaacs. So I think that could be part of it too. But I think that with this captain, I think you want to get somebody who has some credit to them. You don't want to bring in a total unknown, but I don't think you want to get somebody who's going to outshine what the amazing jobs that have already been done by Sonequa Martin Green, Doug Jones, and the rest of the actors on the show already. And when we talked about with Gina Torres, I think she would be the kind of actress who would come in and kind of outshine, not intentionally, but just because of her presence. Right. So I think it's a very fine line that they're going to be walking with the casting of this new captain for Discovery.
Yeah. For me, I would like to see the captain be the main character again, because that's, like I said earlier, the style of Star Trek, that's kind of what the format of the show dictates. And it's interesting, and it's powerful when you get these one-off episodes like Lower Decks, where something's told from a completely different point of view. And I mean, like, I just watched for the first time, cause I'm not familiar with the show, Doctor Who. I watched, Blink. I think it's called Blink, right?
Oh,
and it is so good.
Yes,
it's a great
so
episode.
good.
But I mean, it's these odd episodes that are really well done, that are an interesting entry point into the show, but that's not really what the show is about. And, while as much as I loved Blink and it was great, I mean, like, I don't think that the show would work if you didn't have Doctor Who in it, and like even Lower Decks, like Picard and them were in that episode a significant amount. And so was Riker, so even Worf was in that episode quite a bit, like, more than other episodes that they're in. So it's tough to try and break that formula of what Star Trek is. And, can it be done? Yes, it can, but I don't know that it can be done for long. And I think Discovery proved that you could try, but it's just going to naturally flow back to the format of what Star Trek is. And I'm okay with that.
Right. And
so,
yeah, I too am okay with that. It's like I said, you go to where the decisions have to be made that's going to affect lives. And that's going to happen with these leadership roles of captain and chief, and number one and stuff like that. So I think if they are going to really try and have this be Lower Decks, that the captain needs to be minimal. But again, I don't really see how that's going to be if you have Saru and Burnham that are these first officers. The first officer interacts with the captain. So you have to have the captain, therefore the focus is going to be on the captain. So I think that selling point of being, it's not going to focus on the captain, I don't see that as really happening in season 2.
Right.
So, yeah.
Kyle, thanks so much for joining us tonight. We really appreciate you coming and joining us and talking a little bit of Star Trek Discovery Season 2 with us, some predictions. Why don't you tell everybody where they can find you and some of your podcasts that you're on?
Well, first of all, thank you guys so much for having me on. It's been a blast. And of course, you can find me and my cohorts, Norman C. Lau and Kevin Reisel, doing everything on the Fandom Podcast Network. And you can find our homepage at fpnet.podbean.com. We have several great shows, including Culture Clash, our pop culture news show, our show covering all things Discovery, and the Orville Discoville, which Miss Amy Nelson has been on many a time.
Yes, it's sort of my home away from home.
And of course, Norman doing his thing with Immortals with Blood of Kings, and we do all kinds of great fun things there. And of course, you can find us on Twitter at FanPod Network, and you can find me on Twitter at AKyleW or on Instagram at AKyleFandom.
There's a great Hitchcock podcast on that Fandom Podcast Network too.
Yes,
really?
There is.
Really?
Yes. Yeah, so the thing of it is, it's almost too classy for our network because we all feel a little bit dumbed down after we listen to one of the episodes because that guy Brandon knows his stuff when it comes to Hitchcock, and we're just it's just like I felt like I just went through a college course.
Well, as Hitchcock said, I'll modify it a bit. Podcasters, you guys are cattle.
Yeah, that's it.
You said that about actors. They're cattle. No. It's not that upper class a show. It's just a loose discussion on it. But no, it's great. I'm glad I'm with you guys over there. So thank you so much for joining us.
Having you there. No, my pleasure. And again, thank you so much for the invite. Much appreciated.
Well, talking about our predictions for who might be the captain in Season 2 of Star Trek Discovery is not the only thing we've been discussing here on the network this week, so take a quick listen to this clip and see what else you may have missed elsewhere on Trek FM.
Previously on Trek.fm, The Ready Room.
I should have had my mom buy me everything, because now it would be worth a ton, like the Goofy Spock helmet. But I remember hooting at those things back in the day. Like... They think we're just stupid. That wasn't in the show. You don't have... A real phaser wouldn't say Star Trek on the side of it.
Standard Orbit.
I cannot find anybody in print saying, we're going to the Standard Enterprise Delta to honor the Enterprise as being the first ship of the constellation, the 5-year mission ships to come back relatively intact with its crew and ship intact. And it was not some fan did not just say this. Somebody... in the production somewhere, and someday, by God, I will find where this came from, because we didn't all have this mass group hallucination about it. Somebody felt the need to say everybody's wearing an Enterprise patch now, so that's past us.
To the journey.
So if we're going to have a more Vulcan-like Tom in Tuvam, presumably Tuvam would have to meditate, and he would have to go somewhere to meditate. I'm thinking he wouldn't just go to his quarters to meditate with candles like Tuvok does, or he wouldn't go sit on some rocks on a planet somewhere. He would go in the holodeck and lock himself in his Camaro and meditate with the radio on.
What would be playing on the radio?
Vulcan opera.
Ah, that sounds horrible.
Warp 5.
Shows the gestation of the Borg from their first cube and the diamond ships. Just transwarp conduits.
Floating on the ocean. Little Borg spacemen.
Yep.
Before they were fully immune to the outside elements, so they had little space helmets, Borg space helmets.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what else is happening on Trek.fm.
Check out all of these shows and join the conversation about your favorite corner of the Star Trek universe and beyond. You'll find us wherever you get your podcasts. If you're an Apple user, be sure to hit the subscribe button in Apple Podcasts on iPhone, iPad, or Apple TV, or the desktop iTunes app to get the latest episodes as soon as they are published. And please leave us a star rating and written review. We'd love to know how we're doing, and it helps other listeners to find our show. If you're not an Apple user, we've got you covered as well. You can find our shows on Google Play Music, Stitcher, TuneIn, Spreaker, SoundCloud, Windows Phone, and most third-party apps. And you can stream and download the MP3 file from our website or grab that RSS link.
We'd love to hear your thoughts on today's show, and there are many ways for you to do that. The best place to join in the larger conversation is the Babel Conference, which is where we got the episode idea for today. So you better be there. Then we could talk about fun stuff like that.
And you can hear your name on air.
Yeah. That's our listeners group on Facebook. Just type Babel, that's Babel, into the search field, and it should come right up. If you'd like to send us an email, you can use the form on our website at trek.fm/contact. Choose to send to a show and select the edge. That will come right to Amy and myself. You can also find the network on Twitter at TrekFM and on Facebook at facebook.com/TrekFM. And Amy, where can people find you when you're not binge watching a hung?
Well, gosh. Well, you can find me here on the network. I do a little show called Earl Grey with Richard Marquez and Justin Ozer. You can find me on Twitter at Miss Amy Nelson. But my favorite place is on the Babel Conference. And Brandon, I'm not as quick as you, but where can people find you?
Well, you can find me here on the network with another little show called Warp 5, which I host with my friends Brandy and Patrick. We have a lot of fun over there, so be sure to check it out. Even if you don't like Enterprise, it's a great show and it's a lot of fun, and you should check it out.
It is. You guys have a great time.
As I said earlier, you can find me on the Fandom Podcast Network with my friends Chris and Tom. We're going through the Hitchcock films one at a time, and our first episode of next month is actually going to be covering our first sound film by Hitchcock, so we're very excited to get out of the silent era. You can find me on Twitter at Brandon-Mutala, and I guess that's about it.
All right. Well, listeners, if you'd like to help us keep our shows coming to you each week, you can become a patron of the network on Patreon. Visit patreon.com/trekfm. That's patreon.com/trekfm to get all the details. Now you can get early access to episodes, exclusive content, producer credits, and more available through our special patrons website, which Brandon monitors.
Moderates.
Moderates, that's the word. And we really appreciate any support you can give us and hope that you'll join the team. Again, you'll find all the details at patreon.com/trekfm.
Well, you know, Amy, I just thought of 8 more wonderful people who are wonderful leader type individuals who I think would make great captains in season 2 of Discovery. Would you like to hear?
8 more, specifically 8.
Specifically 8 wonderful, amazing people who would be great captains of Star Trek Discovery in season 2. You ready?
Go for it.
Norman C. Lau, Tony Robinson, Thomas Puleo, Lisa Slack, Shoaib Mirza, Richard Rutledge, James Muldrow, Cornelia Reutner. Those would be wonderful, wonderful captains in season 2 of Discovery. What do you think?
They would be the best.
I love it. That's great. And they just happen to be the associate producers of The Edge, and we're very grateful for their support.
Thank you very much. Well, Brandon, this has been so fabulous. I'm so glad you had this brilliant idea to talk about our captains for next season.
Excellent. Well, I'm glad you were able to do the episode with us, and it's one that's been bouncing around for a couple of weeks. But I think it'll be. I think it's good. I think it was a fun topic.
Well, listeners, join us next time for another episode of The Edge.